Well, great stuff in the room from Logan Thompson, but now even more insight into this position. We are pleased to welcome goaltending coach Scott Murray to the table. Scott, it's great to talk to you. First time we've had an assistant coach in a while.
Great to talk to you. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, take us through big picture, day in the life for you. We see you out here every day, but obviously there is so much more that goes into your role that fans, even us as media, don't see behind the scenes. So take us through what a day in your life as goaltending coach with the Capitals is.
I mean, obviously, as time has gone along here in hockey, video is obviously a huge part of what we do, assistant coaches and goalie coach. And so definitely reviewing video from our goalies, whether it's practice video or game video. That's a massive part now. Pre-scouting the goaltender that we are playing or the goaltenders that we are playing, that's another massive piece to what we do, is to try to figure out how to exploit the weaknesses of the other goalie. Sure. So video is obviously a huge part. You know, you're in discussions with the coaches on the connection between what we're doing as a team and how the goalies fit in. You got some psychology work too in there, and then obviously drills and how do we put together the plan to make them better and attack some of the things that we need to attack.
You talk about psychology. I just had a quick conversation in the room with Charlie Lindgren, and you know we were talking about the last game where he gave up 7 goals, and I told him we were talking to you, and he goes, "Yeah, he's part coach, part shrink." He says, "You know, he kind of keeps me grounded." You know, talk about what you would say to a goalie who's had a rough night. You know, whether it was who played, you know, what happened in front of him or just had a rough night. How do you kind of keep that confidence level up for them?
Well, I think the first thing is you try to get them in an unemotional state, because obviously these guys are competitive guys, and both of our guys have fire, and they want to put their best foot forward to try to help the team win. So, you know, you have the odd conversation after the game when it doesn't go well to try to, you know, if they want to vent, you're kind of an ear to bend. But in all reality, the most productive conversations are, as you know, when that emotion is left, and now you can talk about the true picture. And a lot of times it's not as good or bad as you think it is, and you know, taking a step back and giving yourself some time. So that's definitely a big part, is waiting for that emotion to go, and then you know, just trying to lay out a clear picture from a point of you know, where there's not as much emotion involved. And so that's key, is finding the right timing to speak on those games for sure.
Looking at the tandem you have here with Logan Thompson and Charlie Lindgren, two really good guys, but they definitely have different personalities, different dynamics. And so for you, who knows them better than anyone, how do you balance two guys that seem to have a really good relationship, but also different people at the same time?
Yeah, and I think that's key, is obviously they got a good relationship and they respect each other for what they do, and they definitely don't approach it always the same way, but there's a respect level from both of them. And so they've got a great relationship and a great partnership, and a lot of it. And the one thing with goalie coaching, we only have 2 guys, right? So whereas the coaches have, whether it's, you know, 7, 8D or 12 to 14 forwards, we're really close with those 2 guys, and it's a small department. And so the biggest thing, you know, right away is to earn their trust, but also get to know them as people and as athletes, and kind of what makes them tick. So trying to figure out those different things that make LT tick, that make Chucky tick, and getting to know who they are and where they come from is also a big part of that, because then you can kind of understand, you know, how they're going to react to certain situations.
How fortunate do you guys feel to have a 1A and a 1B? I feel like there's some internal competition between those 2 guys. They both want the net. I mean, we know Logan's the number 1, and we know Charlie's going to get a lot of the backup assignments, but I'm sure, you know, Charlie wants to play as much as he can.
No doubt. And I mean, you know, it's a scenario where, and Chucky said it before, he said iron sharpens iron, and that's kind of the scenario here, where, you know, there's some scenarios where you got the older, more experienced guy and the younger guy that's kind of, you know, working himself in the league, and there's a mentorship. You know, it's a little different scenario. We know Chucky's been the guy here. LT had a really good year last year. They both want to play, and I think it's a good setup for both of them, that, you know, the best way to get the most out of each other is to really push each other and find a way to get results, and you know, so far it's worked well because there's a respect for, you know, amongst them for each other, and I think that's helped a lot.
Going back to your off-ice coaching, as a professional athlete, there's a lot of pressure, but as a goaltender, there's even more. I feel like it's a position where you ride the highs, but you also ride the lows. So what can you do to keep whoever it is sort of grounded and just in a good mental state to come out and be able to perform in such a high-pressure situation?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, there's pressure in different positions. We just, before it used to be the fear of getting hit with a puck in the face. We don't have that fear anymore. So it's that you're the last line of defense, and either stays out or it goes in. And so there's some pressure and a different mindset that it takes. But I just think the day-to-day focus on the controllables, especially in net, because you can ride those emotions, and confidence is a huge thing. And staying in the moment is a big part of that confidence. If you start to, worry about what happened before, what might happen, especially in net,
it's so mental nowadays.
Yeah, it can get away from you. So just kind of focusing on that day to day and the process of what makes them good, and knowing what their strengths are and playing to those strengths, and obviously working on stuff, when they feel it's slipped, and then working on that and having that be the forefront as their process versus the results.
I've got a philosophical question for you. I know you're a sports guy. I always tell people I don't think any position in pro sports has evolved as much or as quickly as goaltender in hockey. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I'm just, in my opinion, just the evolution of the position in the coaching. Before it was, hey, you can't skate very well, you're playing net, and you just stop the puck.
Yeah.
And then, as time went on, you could really see a push for coaching. And I think goaltending got ahead of the shooters for a bit, because there was so much coaching. And I think what coaches did is, even though there's the gameplay part of it for goalies, they also kind of reinforced the technique throughout the year. Whereas I think the players just, they worked in the summer, but then when they got to their team, it was just team structure, and let's focus on, positionally, where do I need to be? And I think some of their skills maybe through the year didn't get the maintenance that was required, and that the goalies were getting. So I think they kind of jumped ahead. But now there's a big, obviously, shift in the skill development and having those guys around. So now it's pushed back for sure, and offense is pushed back. So we've had to evolve, we've had to change, we've had to adjust, because I think they've really put a push on that.
Can I jump in with one more philosophical question? When you guys look at the schedule, when it comes out and you're trying to figure out who is going to play where, how much do you factor in a goalie's performance against an opponent, and even in a building? How much do you look at those numbers when you try to figure out who's going to go?
I think last year, we rolled it. LT was playing one night, Checky was playing the next night. We haven't looked too much into that, just because I think both of our guys have been put in positions already in their career where they've had to play in those buildings, in those tough games.
So then how do you do it? How do you decide at the start of the year? I'm sure you go in with an idea of what that split's going to look like. How do you and Coach Carberry and everyone get on the same page there?
Well, I think last year was just, we're rolling these guys, and obviously it was working, and it kind of worked itself out.
Sure, it did.
And normally what happens is there's, a guy that really asserts himself, and that's what happened last year. Is LT really asserted himself and started to get some more games down the road. This year, I think it's been, hey, LT really, put his best foot forward last year, and then into the playoffs. He's going to get some looks early here, but we're not waiting long to get Chucky in, because we know what he can do, and he's also been in that position where we've had to ride him and jump on his back to get into the playoffs. So I think for this year, it's, LT's getting some extra games based on what he earned last year. He's got to continue to earn that, and but Chucky's right there, and obviously we're not afraid to go to Chucky at any point, or LT at any point. And that's a nice luxury of that we
Absolutely.
have.
You mentioned continuing to earn that. These guys are never going to get complacent, but when you look at this time last year as opposed to now, they both signed extensions in year pretty close together. And so is there maybe, I don't know if sense of relief is the word, but a little different feeling into this year, knowing, okay, Washington is at least going to be home for a few more years for both of us?
I think in life, anytime stability, especially in this industry, there's obviously that you get a little breath of fresh air there when these guys both have LT's got a wife and Chucky's now got a young baby. Just to have that stability, I think for anybody in any
certainty's
part
nice,
of life
yeah.
Right, of course.
is obviously a sense of relief. But I think they know and they've been in our organization, and LT, even though he wasn't in our organization for a bit, he knows our organization, that we've allowed guys to earn their opportunities, and we've given them that chance to control their own destiny, and if they do, they get rewarded for it. And so for sure there's in life there's a sense of fresh air for them to know that they've got that out of the way, but they also know that they have to continue to earn their rewards.
Well, one more from me. I want to ask about Logan Thompson, because you mentioned at the top it's really important for the goaltending coach to kind of ascertain, get a feel for what makes a guy tick. What makes Logan Thompson tick?
He absolutely loves hockey. And I think both of our guys are gamers. They didn't grow up in the traditional, I guess the modern traditional sense of, goalie school, do every move technically correct.
Yeah.
They grew up in playing hockey
Yeah.
and trying to find a way to
Keep
stop
the puck out of the net.
and it
The
wasn't
basics.
it wasn't necessarily I gotta look this way, I gotta stop the puck was their mindset. But I think for LT, I mean, he loves the game of hockey, and I think just the ability to go out there and make saves and win hockey
He's
games.
competitive.
Yeah, he's very competitive.